like in general, I want a total. I've talked to you about this. We want a total 825, 830 kilograms, which is there
Yeah,
if we execute perfectly. We spilled the whole thing right before I could even take a bite of it. So
that's
before
crazy.
squats, I didn't even have carbs, honestly. All I had hit a PR every single cycle. You might not hit like a number you want to hit, but it's just understanding that like those numbers will come with time.
All right, Austin Wilson, how's it going, brother? How you feeling
Good,
today?
how are you?
Good, good. So you just competed a week and a half ago at Nationals as a sub junior. You ended up coming in second, right? So you ended up getting a qualification to get to Worlds. You got the invite to be exact. So first of all, how did it feel? How do you feel stepping on the platform, totaling 788 kilograms at 17 years old?
I feel really, really happy with what we've put up, especially at nationals. Um, but I just know there's so much more to come. Also because of the fact that like I turned 17 or yeah, 17 2 weeks before the competition. So I mean I still have a whole year, another year in sub junior, and like I'm just so excited. So like I'm really happy with this total that we put up, but like at Worlds and even past Worlds for another year, like so much is gonna happen. I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much to talk about. I think we can talk about how we got to this point, how this prep went going into this competition, things that went well, things that went wrong. But I do want to kind of just go way back. So, less than a year ago, right, we had a conversation on DMs, and I said, Austin, I think you'd be really good if you actually locked in and competed. So, you gave me a shot as a coach, and obviously we've came a long way. We've been able to add what just about 100 kilograms to your total from when we started.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about how much progress we've made and really what your journey has been like up until this point. Because I think people are interested to know like where you came out of. Like, you know, you kind of came out of nowhere. You're obviously very strong as a 17-year-old. So, you know, going way back, you competed for the first time last year in the spring. We had a quick 2 month prep. You're a football player. You were just training in the gym. So take us back. Where did you start lifting? What was your lifting like before you started training as a power lifter? Obviously, with me, you know, with a proper program.
So I first started training with my brother like right after COVID ended. But I didn't start training compounds like squat, bench, and deadlift until like a year after that. So, I mean, what is that? Like 3.5 years from when I started training compounds. But I can't say I started doing it seriously, like wanting to gain more until my freshman or sophomore year in high school. Especially after my sophomore year in football, which was what a year and a half ago now. I started squatting again for the first time in a minute, and I maxed out at the football weight room because I hadn't done it yet because I had back pain and I was scared. I didn't want to like actually injure myself, so I squatted for the first time with the football weight room and maxing, and I hit 500 for the first time squatting in a year, which was a 100 pound PR, which is like kind of crazy. Um, and then after that, I just kind of went in the gym and maxed out on squat every single week after that until about May when you sent that text. And
Mm-hmm.
so I squatted high bar 610 for the first time. And then like 2 weeks later, we started working together. And looking back, like, sorry, cut this out.
You're good.
Looking back, like, if I hadn't gotten on a good program, as soon as I like hit 600 pretty much, like if I had kept trying to max out after that, like my body just would have like kind of slowly
Mm-hmm.
deteriorated. And so, I can only thank you for that.
I appreciate that. Obviously, I think a lot of people that are training when they're in high school, when they're younger, when they're just newer lifters, they're maxing out on a weekly basis. It's very, very common. You know, I've done it. Most of the guys that, you know, I coach that, you know, are just new to powerlifting are doing that. So it's very, very common. I think people have a hard time understanding that when you train properly and you want to get stronger, you have to respect that fact that your body can't train at its extreme, you know, top end range on a weekly basis. Because, like you said, at some point, you're either going to get injured or you're just going to hit a wall in training and you're going to start going backwards. So, one of the things that you did notice is like how, with a proper program, you have to pace yourself. You have to be really smart in what you're loading and just trust the process from block to block. And truly understand that down the road is when you do test that new number, it's going to be there because your CNS, your body is ready for it. But so, like you mentioned, you were very strong on your baseline. You're already squatting about 600 pounds. You were deadlifting just over 500 at the time, but you did have a lot of back pain, correct?
Yeah. Hmm.
and you're already benching the 300s. So I think it's a testament to show that if you do train, you're going to just get stronger. But obviously, going from that point to where you are now, squatting over 700, deadlifting, you know, closer to 600 to 700 and 600 now. So you're getting closer to 700, and benching obviously really close to 400 as well. Um, so the first meet last year, obviously we only had about 2 months, so you quickly trained. Went on a quick prep. You were able to experience training for competing for the first time. Did you enjoy that experience? Did you what was your first experience like? Obviously, stepping on a platform in front of people, going for max attempt lifts.
So I'll talk about training first. Kind of training in general, it took me a minute to kind of understand how it worked and to kind of set my ego aside in the gym because like I was the strongest person in the gym at 15, 16. And so not going in the gym and showing my full strength every week was kind of different for me. And it really took a hit out of my ego in a way, you could say. So doing this type of training really had to it humbled me honestly. It really did. But I know it's for the better. And so whenever we stepped on the platform in July, because the meet was postponed like 3 weeks just because of heat at the building. Um, but stepping on the platform in July, I was just like so ecstatic. I was so excited to finally get my numbers out there officially and show people that like this isn't just because like I have bumper plates at the golds. It's not because I'm like somehow cheating. It's like it's official, and so that was really
Hmm.
exciting for me.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, so looking at your stats, the first time you compete, you competed, you totaled 1504, 420 dots. It was just the first time you had a chance to go through the powerlifting, competitive side of it experience, going out there, putting a total up. And then the second time you competed was right after, well, after football season. We got back into the swing of things at like sometime in November, and then we had the meet in February, which is a few
Mhm.
months ago, really. But that was so you can qualify and be able to compete at the national event as a sub junior. And you went from that 1504 total to 1658.9. So we had an amazing prep. We peaked really well. The attempt selection was really spot on, and you hit the world record squat at 16 years old. So you hit 666 pounds, which was amazing because I think just having that 4 month turnaround time from football season, right? Coming back into it, how did your body feel? You said you were a lot weaker. You felt like there was a lot of catch up to do before we
Yeah,
really started
so
seeing those numbers come in.
that 4 week those 4 blocks of training weren't even like 4 blocks of actually building. The first two I would say were just turning around from being so sore on a week to week basis of not being able to train in football to like gradually getting back into the swing of things. And I think I don't remember the exact date, but it was like early December, I want to say. So like a month after football, I finally squatted 585 for three, which was the heaviest I had gone since summer. And so at that point, it was kind of like okay, like we're out of football now. I'm finally getting stronger again. It's time to build. And so we started actually building like mid-December from then to the meet in February. So it was definitely a tight meet, a tight turnaround, a tight prep. So I know I could have done more in February if I had more time to train, but it just
Mhm.
like motivated me that much more for nationals and now even for worlds. Just go absolutely crazy in prep.
Yeah. So obviously that was really good, and I think that gave us a really good understanding of how you peak and the attempt selection. And I think it was just so good for us. I think that was a blessing because if we didn't have that type of data, it would be a lot harder for me as a coach to peak you properly, obviously, and maybe have the same type of data so I can give you an attempt selection that I know would do well for you on meet day. I realized that you peaked really well with your deadlift, which was a good sign. And honestly, same with squats. Um, let's talk a little bit about the competition, right? Let's talk about a little bit about
Yeah.
the national competition. How did you feel on that meet day? Was there a specific moment that stands out to you from your memory? Obviously, you went in there with the hopes of squatting 700. We planned for it. You've never squatted 700 up until this point. And even the taper week before, when you had, I think, what, 625? I mean, it felt disgusting. Like you felt
Felt horrible, bro.
destroyed.
Yeah.
So, talk to me a little bit how you felt with meet day, with your mindset, where your brain was at, and give me a little bit more details on that.
Yeah. So like you said, the taper week, I hit 625, and I think I texted you and sent you the video. I was like, I feel horrible. Like this was like a horrible rep. Not even necessarily that it just moved slow. I just didn't feel in it. And so it kind of I'm not. It kind of scared me a little bit leading into the meet, but I trusted you, and yeah, you know, I've done two meets in the past, so I knew how the taper worked. So leading into meet day, I felt good. I had, you know, done a lot of hiking the day before because of or 2 days before because we were in Reno, so we went to Lake Tahoe. So I felt really good, really mobile. Um, and yeah, so like in the warm up room, I bought a whole thing of Panda because that's what they had at the hotel. You know, 9 a.m. Panda doesn't really taste that good, but you know, you need carbs. But I actually spilled the whole thing right before I could even take a bite of it. So
That's
before
crazy.
squats, I didn't even have carbs, honestly. All I had was like some apple juice, maybe a Rice Krispie treat or two, but that was about it. Um, you know, good thing is though that having too little food before a training session never has really affected me. So I still was able to feel really strong in the warm up room. Like I felt so confident, especially on my first attempt. The only it kind of worried me on my second attempt because what did I take my second attempt? 680.
Your second was 677.
Yeah. So that was a really shaky rep solely just because the rack height was one too high, and so I kind of had to be on my
Mm,
tiptoes almost to walk it out. And so
hmm
I took like 5 steps to walk out. I was extremely unstable. All the weight was on my toes. And so the rep was like almost a grinder, if you could say. I
Yeah.
mean, it felt like one. And so it kind of made me really nervous. But my handler Pat made a really smart move. He said he was going to change my rack height down one on my third attempt, and that really helped me out. And I was able to just walk it out really smoothly, feel comfortable under the weight, and squat 700, which was really cool.
Yeah. Well, looking at like the past 12 months, obviously the first competition you had, you squatted 617. The second time you competed, your second attempt was already higher than that at 628. And obviously you squatted 666 for the world record. And then, moving forward to the national event, your 639 squat was heavier than your second attempt in February, which was 628. And it was much heavier than your initial third attempt at 617, which is mind boggling, just seeing how much progress you've made. But I mean, if you want to squat 700 on the meet, you have to open with like 639. You have to open with something around that area. So it requires a lot of confidence in you to be able to get out there and trust your legs, trust your body. But I think that you did so well in the 4 months before it, and we knew that it was going to be there. Well, 3.5 months. Now I remember training for nationals. You kept asking me like, Ben, let me just squat 700. Let me just squat 700. Like I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. And I kept telling you to trust the process and just do the numbers that I have there for you. What was that like? Kind of just anticipating and hoping to squat 700 for 2 3 months leading up to Nats, not getting the chance to squat 700, and then knowing that's the number that we're going to attempt for a third on meet day.
Yeah, so I think I've said this before, but like throughout all of training, with the triples block, the doubles block, and then finally the singles block before the meet, I felt like you were kind of like pulling me back in a slingshot almost, and so I wasn't showing my full capability to people on my squat at least, just because I wasn't doing singles, and once we did get to the 685 on the last block for a single, like you said, if I had maybe done that 700, then I maybe would have felt worse on meet day. So it was a smart call by you, but yeah, it definitely, I definitely knew that I had 700 in me at least for like a month. And I was really excited just to load it. But like I said before, it took some humbleness out of me to not load at 700 and trust your call on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really important. It's this is a learning moment, I think, for a lot of people to understand. Like, if you have a coach that you trust, just truly trust what they're doing. I think, in my career as well, like I've had to. There was many times where I had to put my trust in my coach with the numbers he gave me, with the programming, even if it's like meet day, and you feel like, hey, my coach, should have allowed me to load another 2.5, load another five. Like most people don't understand that when a coach is programming, when he's looking at a meet day, he's not necessarily like tunneled in on only one lift. He's kind of seeing the whole day, and he's making sure that you can come out there and have your best total possible. Have a day that you can go 9 for 9. Because if you get out there and you fail 3 lifts, like in a way, as much as that could be an athlete's fault, I think I could definitely point more of that direction towards the coach's fault.
Yeah.
I think the preparation
Hmm.
wasn't there. The last thing I do want to bring up is you felt really beat up after this nationals event when you said
Hmm.
your knees were almost in pain, your whole body was in pain. One of the things I think people don't understand is like if you truly go to your max, if you have perfect selections and you're truly testing your top end range for strength on a meet day, you're going to feel the side effect of that, and you're going to feel
Yeah.
beat up.
Yeah.
So how long did you feel beat up for? How was that first week after? And where are you at now? About what, a week and a half later, two
Yeah.
weeks later?
So the week after, I didn't get home until, so I competed Sunday afternoon. I didn't get home until I think Thursday, if I'm right. Um,
Hmm.
and throughout those 2 days, me and my family were just driving around California pretty much and visiting some cool sites. Um, but because of that, I wasn't eating enough. I wasn't really resting as well as I could have been. And also I was sitting in the car like 6 hours a day. And so for like that whole week after, like my body was just, my knees were hurting. I was always sitting, not eating enough, not recovering. So it kind of took a little bit longer just to get back into the swing of things rather than I would have wanted. Also because the week after that, I went on a mission trip with my church. So like all these things, we're finally getting into it. Like this is the first full week back. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it just definitely shows that like if you're not recovering correctly, even if you don't fully max, just in general, if you're not recovering correctly, like you're not going to be able to see the gains that you want to see. And so like I told a few people this, like there's a big difference between doing 3 sets of eight just like casually and just going in there and doing through the motions rather than 3 sets of eight with full intention. Like you can see a world more of like gain with the doing it with intention rather than just going through the motions, and it really does make a difference. And I've seen that more than ever this block because I want it more than ever this block. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Yeah. Well, what the people don't know watching this video is that we did record this interview once, and then of course, the recording was just it didn't work out. So now we're doing it again. One of the things that you did bring up in the previous attempt was when we had this was you said that even with your accessories, everything that you do, you have like the mentality that you're doing that compound lift. So with the chest
yeah,
press, you're thinking about benching. With the you know with the bell squat or leg press or whatever other movement that you have as an accessory, you're imagining that compound being done. So that intentionality, you said, is something that you haven't had in the past as much as you have now, which you feel like it's completely transitioning into a much better training session.
a hundred
Is that
percent.
correct? Yeah.
Yeah, and it allows you to also like break down a lift and see kind of your weak points and work on them. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Especially when you're not just going through the motions and you're thinking about everything, like every rep, even on the back downs on bench, the very last rep of bench with 255 when you know you can just smoke it. Doing that with absolute like 100% intention, comp standard, perfect form is what gets you to be first place at your meet. Get you to hit a new PR, get you to be hopefully
Yeah.
what I want to be a world champion. So like
Absolutely.
all these things matter, and yet like you said, like every single time I do a chest press, every single time I do a tricep extension, I'm thinking about locking out a bench. Every time I do a hack squat or a leg extension, I'm thinking about finishing off a 750 pound squat, like because you always want more. And so if we're not intentionally training to get more, then it's just not going to come.
I love that. Talking about comp standard, let's jump into the bench and we'll talk about the deadlift as well from your meet day. Obviously, you benched 374. We were hoping for 396, maybe 402. And I think that you were on track to hit a 400-pound bench. Talk to me about what happened on meet day. Obviously, you left only 374 pounds pressed, a little bit less than what you expected. So let's talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So 370 for people that don't know, 374 was only my second attempt. I had a third attempt at 385, and I did get it, but my butt just came off the bench a little bit, and that's kind of where we go back to talk about doing everything to comp standard because, like, if we're not doing, like, I can speak from experience. This whole prep, I did a few reps here and there comp standard. Then everywhere else, whenever I would go heavy, I would kind of just like I would try to pause it a little bit. It wouldn't be at comp standard, and then sometimes my butt would come off a little bit and it caught up to me in meet. And so that's just what happens if we're not training the comp standard all the time. And so it really requires that. But yeah, overall bench for the day, I didn't feel as strong as I could. I think that's maybe just because I didn't eat enough that day. I was really light. I only weighed at 220. And as most people know, bench is like the most affected by your body weight. So going into worlds, I'm gonna try to weigh at least 227 plus. So that'll make me confident to
231,
bench
brother.
two
231.
two
Come
thirty
on.
one.
Come
Sorry.
on. You gotta eat, brother. You gotta eat. If you want to
So yeah, so
smoke 400 plus off your chest, you have
we
to.
will. Yeah, we
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I think, yeah, I mean, you make a great point. It's, two things. If you train at comp standard, your progress will be comp standard. If you don't train at comp standard, your progress will probably be similar, but it's not comp standard. So what's the point, right? Sometimes you have to take a step back with humility, understand that, look, if I go to comp standard now, my lifts will be affected slightly, but long term, it's going to be beneficial for me. And the other thing too is sometimes on meet day, maybe one of your lifts is not feeling as great. So that's where you have to make that call between the handler, the coach, and the athlete to realize, all right, maybe we go a little bit more conservative with this lift. But the squat felt good, the deadlift is going to feel good, it's all going to be okay. So making those calls and understanding that maybe on meet day, not everything will be perfect. And in fact, go into it with the mindset that, you know what? If everything goes perfect, that's amazing. But I'm not going to go in with that mindset because then I'll get, then I'll feel bad because something is not perfect. I'll get let
Yeah,
down. And at the end of
yeah,
the day, we're going out there with the intention to make the best possible total happen. So it's like a skill. I love when people say, competing is not necessarily just strength, but it's also a skill. You have to have the skill to understand that on meet day, you have to get things right with your attempts, with your selection, with some of these calls. So yeah.
it is.
Now
Yeah.
training from Costa Rica, one of your goals is everything is comp standard when it comes to your press.
Hmm.
So we're going to emphasize that. We're going to make sure that everything is done that way. And I think you're going to go there, press 400 plus with no problem.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I agree.
And that deadlift, right? You ended up pulling 661 pounds. It was a PR for you. It was smoked. You probably had another 5 kilos in the tank. So
100%.
talk
Yeah.
to me about deadlifts and kind of where you think you're going to be at in the future with that.
Yeah. So, like you said, I've tend to peaked well, like the best, in any of the lifts on deadlift. Bringing it back to like the meet back last July, I we didn't hit it. Well, we did technically hit a PR, but we our third attempt on that meet was 611, and so I failed that. But the fact that I was even able to get it a little bit off the ground was crazy because in training the whole block, a few blocks before, I think I had only hit like 585 or not even that. You know what I mean? And so the fact that I was able to do that with no pain, with nothing, just showed me like how well I peak. And then bringing it all the way to February, like 628 was huge for me, considering that a month and a half, 2 months before, I still was doing 595 on a deadlift bar as a grind. And so like going into this meet, I was really confident with the deadlift. And so even though in the warm up room I didn't feel as like everything was clicking, it ended up clicking on the platform just because that's how my deadlift is. And so yeah, like I said, like you said, the 661 flew. It was so easy, and so it gave me a lot of confidence. We pulled what we had to secure second place. So I'm happy with that. But I just know in the like at Costa Rica, we'll pull 700.
Yeah. And I think in the last attempt in this interview that we had was you did say you tried to press the other individual to go for a number,
Oh yeah,
right?
I'll
So
say that. Yeah.
talk about that a little bit.
So basically, right before the third attempt, we were all behind the curtain. We were all just getting ready, and so I was pulling right before the guy that ended up getting third place, Thomas, and my final attempt was 297 and a half, and his final attempt was 300, and I ended up winning by zero point 0.5 of a kilogram. So, um, but that is like, let me restart.
Yeah, you're good.
So right before the third attempt, we were all behind the curtain, and I was looking at the attempt sheet or the third attempt for everyone, and my third attempt was 297 and a half, and Thomas's, who ended up getting third place, was 300. And I looked at Pat and I said, I don't want him to pull last because if I pull this real fast, and then he sees that, he has the chance to up that and pull 300.5 for the win. You know what I mean? And so I want to make sure I pull after him because I know I can pull it. I was telling Pat and you the whole day that I could have pulled 305. And so pushing it to 300, maybe 302 and a half, I had no problem with doing. And so Pat was kind of hesitant at first. He didn't really want to do it, but then I convinced him a little bit more and we ended up doing it. So I pulled after Thomas. So Thomas grinded out 300 and he secured it. So for me, that just basically meant like, all right, I'm pulling this right now. And I have to pull it. I don't want to. I don't
Hmm.
want to be third. So
Yeah,
it put a lot of pressure on, but it was definitely a really smart call.
that's good. Yeah, one of the things that is I'm gonna pull up your attempt sheet here. Um, it's very important to have a clear game plan coming into meet day. all the numbers that you took were numbers that we thought about, we planned for, we
Yeah.
discussed. I think that's really important as well. Going into meet day and kind of like, you know, hoping, kind of hoping is never going to work out, especially if it's like, hey, if you feel strong, but there's no set plan behind why a certain number is going to be attempted, then unfortunately, it's probably not going to move the way you want it to. So I'm glad that 300 moved up. Yes, you did have a little bit more. I was shocked on how well you peaked in deadlifts, and you know what? That gives us good data. So we'll know that in Costa Rica, there's a very good chance
Yeah.
that 315, 320, 325 might be there. We'll see how training goes. Now you're heading to Costa Rica for Worlds. What is the goals? What are the numbers, the pacing, the mindset? Obviously, I'm your coach, so I will kind of be the last call on that. But I'm curious to know where your mindset is at, where your head is at with what numbers you want to hit.
Um, well, I'll talk about training and eating, and then get on to numbers. But yeah, for Costa Rica, I mean, it's my first ever international meet. It's my fourth ever meet in general, and yeah, that's just crazy to me that I'm already an international athlete on the USA team. So I mean, it's a lot of pressure for me, but I mean, with pressure comes privilege, and so I'm so locked in this block and eating everything strictly, getting all my carbs and all my protein in, training like I said with intention because that's what's going to help me be the world champion that I want to be. Um, and on meet day, I don't know like exactly what numbers, obviously, but kind of like in general, I want to total. I've talked to you about this. We want to total 825, 830 kilograms, which is there
Yeah.
if we execute perfectly, which would require a what do we say, a 730 squat.
716 squat, a 407 bench, and a 694 deadlift will get you there. So it's
Yeah,
not like we have to go crazy. It's more about just being able to repeat that squat, obviously a little bit more, but you understand how much of a toll that took on your body. So,
yeah,
325, 185, and 315 would be great. But at the end of the day, we just don't know what you're capable of. I mean, you're putting on weight into this meet.
yeah.
It literally anything is possible. That would give you an 825. I think 830, 835 is possible. So it's insane that you're doing this at 17 years old. It's absolutely mind-boggling. But um, yeah, I think that we're gonna be able to put up a big total, and I'll be there. So it's gonna be exciting to live it through.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
Together. Any messages that you want to give to young lifters watching this, people that are, chasing a dream, or maybe they're thinking about getting to powerlifting. Maybe they come, maybe they're playing sports in high school and they're also weightlifting and they're thinking about getting to powerlifting, or it's somebody that already powerlifts and, they don't have the maybe confidence or belief that they can get to a high level. What would your advice to them be?
So the first tip, and what I feel like a lot of people will say, is just you got to get a good coach. Like you got to find someone that you can trust. You can trust their numbers. You trust what they're telling you. You trust everything that they're saying and giving to you. That way you can confidently just do what you do with training. You don't want to have to, especially on a meet day, you don't want to have to worry about like checking in by yourself, warming up, knowing when to warm up. Because I did that. It was horrible. Like I warmed up the whole flight too early. You don't want that. So get a good coach. And then the second point is you really got to understand the concept of delayed gratification. Like, you're not going to hit a PR. You might not hit a PR every single cycle. You might not hit like a number you want to hit, but it's just understanding that like those numbers will come with time as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? If you're
Yeah.
trusting your coach's numbers, if you're eating as much as you should, if we're doing all these things, like everything will come, especially on meet day. You know what I mean? But it's just about understanding that maybe it's not there this block, but next block it will be, and
Yeah.
it's all just building up to your top bench strength. And it's not about trying to feel as good as you can in the gym. It's about trying to feel as good as you can on a meet day because none of it matters unless you do it in a meet. So
Hmm.
none of your training hitting a crazy PR doesn't matter unless you're hitting a crazy PR in the meet.
Yeah. That's amazing. As somebody that has had several coaches in the past, I've had coaching experiences that weren't nearly as good as my current coach, and I've went through a few years of kind of ups and downs. So I definitely relate with you on that. Um, Shout out to one of my good friends that put me on my current coach now. He's been good to me. But yeah, it's very important. And I think that's another very important thing for younger lifters. Like, look, some of these power lifters that are elite, that are very, very good. I think Austin, you're kind of an exception. But even, myself, I've been powerlifting for a few years until I became an elite power lifter, totaling over 500 dots, squatting over 700, deadlifting about 800 pounds, benching the fours. Like it took me several years to get me here. And even for you, like you've trained for years on end, and obviously you locked in the past years. It in the past year, it takes time. And I think a lot of people are like seeing this and either they jump to the conclusion saying, oh, that's all genetics and he's very lucky, or number two, they're like expecting it to happen to them very fast. Like,
Yeah.
no, like just work. Like this takes time. That some of the best lifters and power lifters in the world in certain weight classes, they're at their strongest when they're 30, when they're 31, when they're 32,
Yeah.
and they've been training for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
Strength is one of those weird sports where it kind of grows with you over time. It's kind of like golf. Some of the best golfers are in their 30s versus
Yeah.
something like football or soccer or basketball where the best are maybe in their mid 20s. It's not always just reliant on like you just having a young physique, like a young body with young ligaments. It's all about building strength over time. Your CNS has to improve. All these other factors have to improve. So
I think
it's
I think on that note, like seeing, especially with social media, kids like, or just young people in general, just like try to rush it because they
mhm.
see, I mean, I might contribute to this, so sorry if I do, but like they see what either young lifters or just people in their 20s hitting like insane PRs and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm behind. But in the
Yeah,
reality, you're not behind. Like there's plenty of
yeah,
world class lifters that didn't start till they were like in their 20s. Like it,
yeah.
like so like it's like you said, it's all a race. Like, you
Seriously.
learn over time and you get stronger over time, especially as a natural athlete. Like you're not gonna be like squatting 800 pounds within 2 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I think you meant to say marathon, not a race. Yeah, I think you said race instead of marathon.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I know you meant. And I think that I'm a testament to what you just said there too. Like, I started powerlifting competitively when I was 21. I'm 24 now and I've, squatted over 700 pounds. When I first started deadlifting and I was 21, like I could barely, deadlift 500 pounds. And now I can deadlift 800, So uh, it takes time as long as you trust the process and you have some of the things that we spoke about, like a good coach, good programming, understanding of the long term goals, you're going to be fine. So
Yeah.
hopefully that motivates some people to do it right instead of get hurt. That's you see a lot of people getting hurt when they're younger, or they're doing dumb things in the gym because they see somebody like Austin Wilson squatting 700.
No, yeah, that's
Man,
that's one of the best points you can give. Honestly, that'll be my third tip is recovery. Like if you're not
yeah,
recovering properly, I learned this more about than anything throughout this past year that like if you're not taking care of your body properly, then like you're just going to set yourself back in the future.
hmm,
It's about stretching every day. And I had to learn this the hard way. That's why I got so many back injuries. Like I wasn't stretching, I wasn't taking care of my body, I wasn't recovering properly. So if
yeah.
you're not doing any of that, then maybe you're seeing insane gains right now, but in a year from now, 2 years from now, 2 months from now, you're going to get an injury, and then you're going to look back and be like, "Dang, I should have been recovering."
Yeah, absolutely, man. Austin, I think this was a great interview. I think we should do this more often, talk about other things. Maybe after Worlds, we're definitely going to do another one. Um, but I think people are definitely going to be interested in your insight and continue to see your growth, guys. You can find Austin on Instagram at Austin Wilson Lifts. Is that correct? Yes,
Yeah,
Austin Wilson Lifts. Um, and if you guys are interested in coaching by me, look in the description down below. I know Austin, you offer some coaching for some lifters as well. So if you guys are interested in potentially doing that, feel free to DM him as well. If you guys want to join the Yoki Powerlifting Team, you guys know where to find it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Austin,
thank you,
let's
Ben.
kill at Worlds, and then we'll have another one in the future. See ya.
Yes, sir.